Today we're making this incredibly creepy skull lantern of myth and legend. So stay tuned. Greetings adventurers and welcome to Skilltree, where we learn how to do just about everything. So recently I've really become enamored with the Slavic folktales all centered around the Baba Yaga. Mostly because of this video here. I'll leave a link to it in the description below. The creator who does it did a fantastic job just kind of telling the whole story. So in kind of homage to that, and also as we come up to like the spooky time of the year, I thought it'd be fun to make a prop from that myth. Basically, at the end of it, the heroine Vasilisa is able to come home with a skull lantern, basically a skull that's been mounted on a pike of some sort. I love that visual of this particular myth, and I'd really like to see it come to life. So that's what we're doing here today. We're gonna have a skull mounted on a pike that lights up to be a ghostly lantern. Now, just before we get started, friend of the channel and Patreon, Dragon Design, does need a little bit of our help here. He is a fantastic leather crafter who's made his business selling his wares at Ren fairs and stuff. But unfortunately, his tent has broken, which makes it harder to do this coming year. So as such, he's doing a drive on his website, making and selling these little keychains here, the proceeds of which go towards getting him a new tent so he can continue to do business. This isn't a sponsorship or anything, I just like being able to help out the community, so if you are interested in helping out, check out the link in the description below. Okay, without much further ado, let's jump right into it. Alright, so first things first, we are going to need a skull, and I was kind of picky as to which one I got. I ended up going with this beauty here that is used for like medical educational purposes. Because one, it is gorgeous and to scale and everything, but two, and most importantly to me, are the teeth. Look at these beautiful things. If you get some of the cheaper skulls, they're all like one piece of plastic with little notches made in them to make them look like teeth. Whereas in these suckers look like teeth, they're perfect. You can of course also take off the top of the head here too with this empty cavity for us to work with. Which is important for me because I want this thing to light up, right? So I need an empty cavity for the light to kind of bounce around in and also for any like electronics to sit in. Though if you get this one, do be careful. The bite force is actually nothing to mess with. This thing bites hard. I'll leave a link to it in the description below if you are interested in following along with this process. All right, the next big component with this though is a pike, right? A stake for it to be sitting on. For this, I actually just went outside and grabbed a stick. There's a tree that fell down earlier this year. I just cut a piece from it and that's what I'm using. Now I do have ulterior motives with this piece. This is a thing that I'd like to eventually also use at like a LARP at some point. So I want this to actually be able to stick into the ground. Though if you're using it for like Halloween purposes or whatever too, you want to be able to take it outside and stick it in the ground in front of your house. So to make that happen, I went ahead and just sharpened the end of this thing. In fact, I sharpened both ends of this thing because the skull is to be on a pike. In fact, I decided that I don't just want this like sticking into where the spinal column is, but I wanted it to be coming out of the top of the skull, like somebody took the head and just kind of really hard pushed it down onto it. Though, in order to make that effect, I didn't want to actually try to ram a stick through this thing. I was afraid it would just break the plastic. So instead, I grabbed one of these spade bits here that is just a little bit smaller than the circumference of the stick. I used that to cut a hole in the head exactly where I needed it to be. For me, it's important that the hole be a little bit smaller than that stick because I want the pieces of the skull to kind of be lifting up around it. Now, in order to make that happen though, I have to make little cuts inside of the skull so that they can lift up. But again, I want this to look real. I want it to look like shattered bone, so I can't just make straight cuts all around it. So to make that happen, I just went in with a pencil and drew these little fracture lines, kind of reminiscent of if you took like a hard-boiled egg and you knuckled into it. I want to see those random little cracks everywhere. Then I used a coping saw and went in and cut as best I can those jagged little lines. This being plastic, it was actually really easy to get some clean cuts with this saw. That said, it's a thick plastic, so I can't rely on it bending up very easily. So to make that happen, I flipped that headpiece over and used a Dremel to kind of connect all those lines in a circle and really weaken that point. I want to say the plastic of the skull is like 1/4 of an inch to 1/2 inch thick in some points, and I cut down into it until it was about 1/8 of an inch thick, or really, really thin. This way, if I go back in with my heat gun, I can warm up that plastic and make it really pliable. Then it's a simple task to just push that stick through and really make those little bone fragments raise up around it. Then once the plastic cooled in that position, I went back in with my Dremel and made more little fracture lines and everything going down. This, I think, really sells the look that this has fractured this skull and those cracks are continuing down into the rest of that top of the head there. which I love. That totally sells that effect that the stick like went right through the head there. Like whoever this poor victim was got his mind blown by how sharp this stick was. Speaking of mind blown, I want to talk to you about today's sponsor, Fume. Specifically their newest product here, Fume Zero. Now I've talked about Fume a lot on the show. I have their regular device here. Though if you don't know what it is, it's a flavored air device that does pretty much what it says. It flavors the air. And though I love this one here, it can be a little expensive to just jump into. Which is where their new product Fume Zero is such a good idea. Basically where you can change out the flavor cores of the regular unit here. This little guy is a single-use one, gives you about 10 days worth of flavor, which allows you to really give the whole concept a try, and I love that. That's such a great idea. Not only that, but it's still fun to play with. It still has a nice tactile feel to it, and the tip of it even mirrors the feel of their toppers, which makes it nice to kind of like chew on a little bit. So I'm using the peach blush here, but it comes with the orange vanilla, the spearmint ice, crisp mint, raspberry, mango. It's got a bunch of great flavors. All that, and it only starts at like $24.99. It's really great. It is by far the simplest way to try flavored air. Just check out the link below or scan my QR code to get yours today. Okay, so far we have skull and we have a stick for it to go on. The next thing we need is actually a way to light this thing up. Now I did contemplate like going to an electronics store and buying like fancy LEDs or something and figuring out how to wire them up. But then I realized that I actually have this lantern here, which has fallen down a few times and is mostly broken. It's the same as the lanterns that I have on my wall here. I've got them everywhere, and I've abused them terribly. Anyways, it's really, really easy to open up. It's just 4 screws to remove, and the whole bottom comes out, giving me this nice thin tube of LEDs here. Not only that, but once I pop this thing out, it has everything I need. The batteries fit inside of here. It's got this little switch to turn it on and off. And when I stick it into the skull, like, look at this. Oh, it's so cool. And that doesn't do it justice. In order for the camera to be able to pick up things in low light, I still need some lights on. If it's like dark, it actually lights up quite a bit. So now I gotta start putting these pieces together a little bit and making them look cool. To start with, I actually cut off the little nibs that held this switch on so I can take it out. Mostly because I want that battery pack to sit inside the little brain cage there so I don't have it like hanging off the side or anything. But I still want to be able to turn it off and on from the outside. I don't want to have to open it up to turn it on and then close it. To do that, I feel like I'm gonna need to move that switch somewhere, so I figured disconnecting it would be good. Also, because the spinal column hole, the little neck hole there, is where the stick needs to go up through, I needed another way for that tube of LEDs to fit through. So I just flipped this sucker over and used my drill to make a brand new hole kind of further in behind the jaws and stuff. This allows my tubo LEDs to snugly fit behind everything and really light that space up. Though I did realize that that battery pack assembly does kind of get in the way of the stick coming all the way through. So I just went ahead and removed excess material with my Dremel to clear some more space. Okay, so that's gonna fit fine, but now I need to move that little switch out, and as you can see here, the wires are quite short, and it wouldn't fit outside of the skull area where I could click it. So to get around this, I just kind of snipped those wires and then spliced in some new wires using this heat shrink to lock it all into place. I'm bad at my job and I didn't get good footage of it. I basically peeled back the wires, twisted them together, and then used that heat shrink. It really isn't anything crazy. By doing this, I was able to add another like 5 inches to this wire here so it could make it so I can put it wherever I want it. And where I wanted it was mounted just outside of this access hole here, mounted so that I could get to it once everything's all put together. And look at that, look at how cool that is. Just one simple click, get this whole sucker lit up. Love that, came out great. Not only that, but the battery pack fits nice and snug in everywhere. It all just works perfectly. Though of course at this point it's far too clean. It looks like a plastic model of a skull that lights up. We can't have that. We must make this look decrepit and nasty. So to start the painting process, I first hit this thing with some 180 grit sandpaper just to knock down that surface and make it so paint has an easier time sticking to it. Now the paint I'm gonna use is actually kind that's usually used for making like Warhammer models. And it's this speed paint aptly named Pallid Bone. I figured with a name like Pallid Bone, it should be exactly what we're going for, right? Though I wasn't positive, so I wanted to start by thinning this out a little bit and slowly adding those layers up. So I also just use this speed paint medium here, which can thin out that paint, kind of dilute it, and make it so that I can stretch it a little bit further. Then I simply just brushed it on, making sure it covered the entirety of the skull, really seeped into any little crevices that I wanted. And after adding about 3 layers of this, look at how cool this is. Oh my god, it looks, might I say, like pallid bone. That is an aptly named paint. That is fantastic how good that came out. Though at this point that worked so well that I wanted to use other techniques one would use while doing model paints. Which means my next thing is some shading or a wash. For that I'm using this Citadel paint here. It's specifically a shade paint, and it's made to be a lot thinner so it really sinks into small crevices and darkens those up. This I just kind of painted on everywhere. Adding a good amount, really kind of working it into places, and then going back in with a paper towel to lightly dab at the surface. This leaves a lot of that dark paint in all of the little crevices and cracks. Not only that, but by just kind of dabbing it off and not really wiping it off, it also darkens the rest of the bone out really well too. Kind of uneven and splotchy like you think it would be if it was just kind of outside on a spike somewhere. And now this thing is looking amazing. Like, look at between the teeth and everything. Oh my god, it's so cool. Though we're in danger here of being a little one note, right? It has a base color and then it has this nice kind of shading, but it's all very evenly done. And I don't want that. I want there to be some highlights and some things that really give it a lot more dimension. So in order to make that happen, I actually went back in with a little bit of steel wool and just buffed off some of the highlights here, making those lighter than the rest of the areas. Then I went back in with my shading and added it more heavily down to anywhere there was a recess. Think of it almost like you were doing makeup, right? If you want your cheeks to kind of go in, you add a little bit of shading here and you add some highlights on your cheekbones, and it's gonna change the look. I'm doing the same exact thing with the skull here. And I think that it helped. I think it adds a lot more dimension to it. It makes it look cool. Though again, because this is going to be outside, it might rain at some point or whatever, I wanted to seal that in. So I just hit it with a clear coat really quick to make sure that everything was protected. Now, as cool as it looks, I don't like the ring around its head, right? Where you can take that top part off. That is a clear indication that this is a plastic skull meant to have the top taken off. And though, yes, I know real skulls have that sometimes too, because medical students and all that type of thing. But no, this isn't a medical student. Baba Yaga ain't like carefully cutting the tops. I don't know what Baba Yaga does, but not for this skull. But this does give us a cool opportunity because we can cover that up with something that adds to the effect, right? Makes it feel like maybe there was some kind of ritual that was done around it. So to try to do that, I first start by wrapping it around a few times with some of this hemp cordage here. Though I didn't want those wraps to come apart over time, and because it is a smooth, rounded kind of object, I'm afraid they'd start to separate. So to keep them together, I'm actually going to use this wax thread here that's roughly the same color, and this needle. With that, I simply go through all the different strands of the cordage, and then sew in and out, keeping them all together. By sewing it like this in multiple spots, I can keep everything together how I want it and make it so that I can actually remove this little ring for whenever I need to open the skull to maybe, I don't know, change the batteries or something. Then I simply hung more cordage with little things on it, charms and feathers, some more bone, just anything to make it look like it is the decoration of some woods witch out there who cast a spell of some sort on it. And I think that looks really, really cool. I think it sells that effect. And the neat thing about this skull is you can kind of move the jaw so you can take it a little off kilter or something and make it look like it's starting to separate. I might even eventually kind of like bind it up or maybe put a bone between its teeth to make it look like it's been tied there, right? Because once all the musculature lets go, the bottom part of your jaw will disconnect from the upper part of your jaw, right? It'd be fun to take that into account and actually like lash it together somehow. I think it'd be cool effect. So if it's all been rotting outside together, I just wanted to add a little bit more kind of messiness to the rope itself. So I hit that with that same shading material just to dirty it up. And look at it. Look at how cool it is. Oh my God. I love that it is like actual human sized. So cool. The spike going through the top looks amazing. Ready? And look, ready, watch. Oh, look at that light up. It's hard to see with all those stage lights on, but like when the lights are out, look at how cool. Oh my God, I love this thing. So during Conquest, we play characters who collect stories, right? And I love this particular story of the Baba Yaga. I think it's really neat. I think that video that did it absolute justice. The atmospheric kind of feeling of it was fantastic. So I kind of have this plot line in my head that maybe as we go to different kind of worlds and explore the magic there, we accidentally bring pieces back with us that players then need to find so that we can return it back to the world it came from. How fun would that be if this is just out there somewhere in the world and you have to do some sort of a ritual or you have to do something for somebody else before they'll give it to you. And then once you get it, look at what a cool prop that is. Oh, it looks so cool. Or, I mean, it's kind of a scaled up version of a jack-o'-lantern, right? Like, I want this to be outside when trick-or-treaters come this year. That's kind of extra. I love it so much. Y'all leave down in the comments what his name should be. I think he should have a name. Oh, I love it so much. I hope you enjoyed this half as much as I did. This is so cool. If you did, be sure to give me some of that like and love, and don't forget to subscribe so you know when I release new content. And with the Halloween season coming up, which is by far my favorite season, there's bound to be some more fun, spooky stuff coming out. Also, if you're interested in joining us at Conquest, our tickets are now on sale at our website. You can find that link in the description below as well. And if you don't know what Conquest is, but you're interested to find out more, you can check out this video here. All right, that's it for me. I must find the most optimal spot in my yard to put my new trophy. So cool. In the meantime, though, keep leveling up, you. You've made it to the end screen. YouTube loves it when you do that, and it's a fantastic way to support this channel. Another fantastic way to support this channel is by joining these people's noble ranks. These are our Patreon, and we can't do anything without them. It's because of their incredible generosity that we're able to afford things like fun plastic skulls. And an extra special shout out to our Grandmaster tier Patreon members, WildFox99, Dragon Design, Ghetto Medic, and Froggy. It really blows my mind that you support us in this way. It's humbling, and I can't express how much good it actually does for us. It's incredible. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much. If you'd like to support us in that way, consider joining our Patreon, link in the description below. And if you out there would like to support us, consider joining our Patreon, link in the description below. Otherwise, you can check out one of these videos that YouTube thinks you'd like, and that helps out a lot too. But seriously though, look at how hard he bites. That will take someone's finger off. I better be careful about that. I might need to put a different spring on there.